Hello, everyone. I am Steve Lorello, and welcome to my stream. Sorry, I'm getting started a little late today, and this is going to be a little bit of an awkward stream because this is actually I'm back home for the first time in a couple weeks, which is great. But my computer that I usually stream on melted down on Sunday night, and well, specifically the hard drive did. So I have been basically bootloading and installing Windows late into the last night, and I've been trying to get everything up and running on the machine today. But so if things are going a little bit slow, I actually don't even have audio right now, so hopefully no one has to pop on here to talk to me. But I don't have any sound for this computer, so but I think I'm still going to be fine. So this week, for those of you who read the episode description, well, at least the episode title, we are going to be continuing our work on Redis OM .NET. So there's been one issue in particular, which has been coming up a fair amount in the last couple of weeks. It's been getting a fair amount of play since someone first brought it up. Basically, when you insert an item into Redis, the question that I've been asked is, is it possible to set a time to live on that item? And this is actually an interesting question. So let me first bring up the GitHub issue and give you all a bit of background into the issue. So let me share my screen. So if we go to github.com/RedisOM.net and we pull up the issues on here, this one right here has gotten a bit of traction, not only from this person, but there's also been actually this issue has a bunch of commentary about this potential feature, and I've been asked about it a couple of times in Discord ever since somebody opened this issue. So I think it's going to be interesting to look into. So what does this mean exactly? We want to be able to set a TTL on data when it's inserted into Redis. So what's a TTL? Well, I have Redis stack running, so that's good. So what's a TTL? So if we zoom in a little bit on this and I run the Redis CLI, we have our keys, right? So we have a string key one. That's not a command at all. Set key one, get key. Will then respond with one. But what if I wanted that particular key? What if I wanted that particular item that I'm caching to only be valid for a given period of time? So say I want it to be valid for 5 seconds. I can set an expire key, passing in the key's name, and then I could also pass in the number of seconds I want it to be valid for, so 5 seconds. And if I get key now, it's probably still in there, but if I get key in a couple seconds, it'll eventually go nil because it's been expired. Now, I can say set key 1, and then I can expire key 10, and then I can call TTL on key to see how long it's got left. And eventually this counter is going to keep counting down, and eventually it's going to hit 0, and the key is not going to be alive anymore. And I think it's going to become a -2 at that point. Yeah, -2. And that's basically saying, this key was here, but now it's expired. I think if I called TTL key 2 now, no, it just means that it doesn't exist, right? So the question here is, with Redis OM, we can create these rich objects, right? We can create hashes, and we can create JSON objects, and we can insert them into Redis. Sorry, I had to dip out of a meeting to join the stream here. Let me turn my Focus Assistant on so that I don't get notifications from work while I'm doing this stream. And let me close out a C line too. I don't need that. Jeez. So what I want are these rich objects that I can create. So like I could say age set person : 1 and name of Steve and age of 33 and height of 71, so on and so forth, right? And I can get this person now. I can get particular fields of this person and all that stuff. But what people want what the folks are asking for with this are basically be able to set an expiration on these keys. So like these rich hashes and JSON string, JSON objects. So the other one, of course, is JSON. So I can do a JSON.set person colon 2. Name is Chris, and age is 36. Height, all 68. Right. And like this, I can also do JSON get person colon 2. Get them. I can do an h get all on person colon 1. But what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to expire these values, right? So, so I can set on person colon 2 an expiration of like 5 seconds, right? And I can call that TTL command on person colon 2 and see how many seconds it has left. And now it's expired. So if I did a JSON.get person colon 2 and pass to my $, I get nothing back because it doesn't exist anymore because it has expired and been evicted from the cache, the data set. So what the ask is here is when we call insert into Redis, when we call insert on the Redis collection in Redis OM, or when we call set in on a Redis connection with Redis OM, to be able to pass in an expiration and have that expiration execute. And now the good news is for me that my colleague Shahar has already started on this started down this path, and he has actually opened a pull request against Redis OM to do just this. And he opened the pull request a couple of weeks ago. I had some concerns about it because it was doing things in a way that wasn't exactly wise and properly blocking. So let's go ahead, and he made some updates today. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what we can do to get this this moving forward, so everyone can use this feature. So if you see right here, Shahar has added this pull request. So let me do this first. So let me go on projects, CD Redis. Now, interesting, I don't think I have Redis OM copied in here. So if I do a listen here, yeah, I got nothing in here. But that's only because, like I said, I had to just completely reformat my Windows machine, which I do my streaming on, because my Mac is not really up to the challenge. So this is just a completely blank slate that we're working off. But that's not really that big of a deal. Of course, clear is not. How do I clear? CLS. All right. It's been a long time since I've actually, because my WSL command just sort of like were kind of rooted with my regular command prompt commands before. I'm just used to that. So if I do a git clone of this, and I do a cd into redishome.net, now his branch is over on his fork. So, all right. So his branch is over on this fork. And for those of you who don't know how to work with different origins or different remotes in Git, this is actually probably going to be fairly instructive for you. So I have the main repository for redishome.net is under redis/redishome.net. And Shahar has a fork of this repository. Now, a fork is basically just you take the source code at a particular point and you just copy it off and put that in a different repository. In this case, Shahar has it in a similarly named repository under his own users organization. So what this means is I can actually relate the two repositories to each other because they have a very similar commit history, except for maybe the 10 commits that redishome.net is ahead and or 10 commits that Redis OM .NET is behind, and the 4 commits that Redis OM is ahead. This is actually like the difference between these two branches. So, or these two forks. So what I can do, I can do a Git Remote, and if I want to see what remotes I have, so what remote repositories exist for this Git repository, I can just do a Git Remote V, and that just tells me like, oh, these are the origins that these are the remotes that I currently have. And you'll see that the canonical one that everyone sees is origin, and that's just the default remote name for where you pulled your code from. So I pulled this code from github.com/redis/redis-om.net, right? But he has a very similarly named repository under github.com/shaharpash/redis-om.net, right? So what I can do now is I can just say git remote add, and then I can name this, give this some sort of remote name. So I'm going to say just Shahar, and then I'm just going to drop the URL in there, and then I can just do a git. And if I do a git remote v again, you'll see that that remote has actually been added here, and it's named Shahar. So I can do a git fetch to pull in all the references in that repository. So you'll see he has this features key branch here. So I can then do a git checkout of feature key here. And of course, yep. And now it's actually pointing directly at Shahar's features key TTL branch. So now I'm actually pointing at that same source repository. So if I do a start here and I open up Redis OM, this is my first time opening up Rider. It's probably going to have me activate my license. I'll just skip this. I've always liked the Rider theme. I'm just going to stay the course on that. And yeah, I mean, I need the Visual Studio key mappings. I do not want heap allocation viewer because that is annoying to look at. It's very useful sometimes, but it's very annoying for me to look at. So I'll just start using JetBrains Rider, and I can trust it open this. And I probably, yeah, like I said, I'm going to have to activate. Oh, no, it says it's already licensed to me. Good. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything in that front. That's actually deeply gratifying to me. Just wait for the solution to load while I sip my coffee. There we go. Sorry. It's just dusting off the cobwebs. Yeah, like I said, on Sunday, my computer just locked up and shut off. And I tried to turn it back on, and there was a fault on my hard drive, and I'm like, this is not good. So I ordered a new hard drive. It came in yesterday. I installed it last night. Rebooted Windows 11, and I'm back off to the races now. But this is always very interesting when you have to set up a new environment. What's doing Rider? Oh, that's great. So let's look at what he's done so far. So let's go to Redis-OM.net and look at the pull request. Features, key TTL. And I'm really interested to see what tests he's added. Connection test. Oh, right. Well, those are just white space changes. A lot of extraneous white space changes here. It looks like there's some functional tests. Yeah, well, this person object probably isn't necessary because we have multiple of them already. But it looks like the main test he's added was under core tests. And he has this expire test right here. All right, so let's open this up. I'm using my Mac hotkeys today. So let's go to core tests, expire test. All right. So JSON person equals new person. Okay. Okay. So he's doing connection.set here, passing in JSON object with expire, and expiration. In milliseconds, he's adding 1 second. So this looks like that's kind of odd. Oh, so he's adding an expiration time. So date time.now.add milliseconds. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I don't know that that's going to make that much sense because I think the wait. Let's open the command page. I'm wondering is that the right thing to do? Redis.io. So Pirate. It's an absolute Unix timestamp. So second since January 1st, the timestamp is misplaced. Is it UTC though? So these showing up to this already expired, I think is my big question. Okay, so he's modifying the hset command. And then he's using a transaction. Okay. So one of my big concerns the first time I reviewed this was that everything was going across in like 2 round trips to Redis, which really didn't make much sense. It looks like here he has exposed this get transaction method in iRedis connection. I don't think this should be public. Yeah, that's probably not right for that to be public. So let's make that internal. We don't want other people to be able to get this because these is just for like the things that we need to. Is that my old note to myself? Or is that something from Shahar? Could be. Hold on. So Git. All right, so that's some Shahar. I was going to say, am I missing something? Yeah, so that we just want to be internal. We don't want to expose that publicly. I don't believe. Let's do all of this. Yeah, that was kind of what I was worried about with trying to add something like that to this. This might have to be static extension. Hello, Fluxidence. Welcome to the stream. If you don't know what we're working on today, I am working on Redis OM .NET, which is a library that I wrote for object mapping and more in .NET. And with Redis, and specifically what I'm working on today is trying to add a TTL to new objects that are inserted into Redis. So, and we're actually looking at a colleague of mine's pull request, and probably going to make some changes to it for them. Okay, so I'm thinking that the transaction bit I think is right. I had considered telling them to use a script before, but I think transaction might be cool. Yes, indeed it is. This is all Redis OM .NET code, and I'm just being self-conscious here, but I realize it's probably kind of small, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so this is Redis OM .NET code. Right now, like what we're looking at, for those of you who are not familiar with Redis OM .NET's code base, which I assume is probably most people. Yeah, no problem. You know what? Like Guy Royce, who is like one of the people who's behind a lot of the streams here at Redis, he usually is the one who's supposed to be sitting on here and yelling at me for not zooming in enough. But I think he's on another meeting right now, so he couldn't join me and tell me what's what. So like this Redis commands file is an extension class. And what this does is it takes this Redis connection, which is this super simple connection class, and it basically has an execute async method on it. And what he added this get transaction method, which I kind of don't think belongs here, because the iTransaction. So iTransaction is a construct of Stack Exchange.redis, which is the library that this library is built on top of. And what we sort of don't want to have happen is expose their data structures in this iRedis connection class. So like the notion of combining an item creation and an item creation and a TT and a expire is really an implementation detail that shouldn't matter to whoever's using this. And so we really don't want to have this get transaction thing here. What we can do is we can have an internal transaction get transaction. We can remove this. From iRedis connection. So I'm going to be hitting the Windows button a lot today because I was working on my Mac before, and I was working with my keyboard on my Mac, and I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks. So it's a little weird to get back to my normal Windows command. So I'm going to be hitting the Windows button a lot today, but it's good though, because this is a brand new, fresh install of Windows that I'm working with. All right, so now iConnection. So transaction. Okay. So that was thing one. They haven't touched, Fluxness. You haven't touched that in a long time. It's good, kind of nice to see it again. I know it's nice to read a language that's very usable. What are you working on now? What what programming language stack are you working in now? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Python's not a bad language. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a thing against languages that aren't really strongly typed. I mean, I know that there is new like validation stuff around Python, but it's hard for me to like. And this isn't anything against the language; it's something against me. It's hard for me to like get into like any language that is loosely typed because I like to have like strongly structured types that I'm working with. I mean, that's just me though. So actually, one of the reasons I like C# a lot is because it is strongly typed, and I mean, I think it's a pretty readable language, but that could just be me, and that could just be my experience with it. Okay, so let's see. Now I changed this a little bit, so now I've actually cast the connection to a no, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Yes. Okay. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. We are going to now take. We're gonna move this transaction out from because this is really crappy. So if I do this, basically I'm just throwing in my hands and I'm saying, all right, JSON set. I'm pretending that this thing, which is supposed to be an iRedis collection, is in fact a Redis collection. So what's the point of putting it behind an interface? I'm just pulling this transaction out of here and we're off to the races. I think that's kind of crappy. So what I'm actually going to do, let's see. So strongly typed is really nice to work with, especially when it comes to checking code completion. But you can't beat Python for how easy it is to do things. That's fair. So different tools for different purposes. Yeah. No, I agree. And this is somewhat of a bias I have. This might be a little bit of a hot take, and feel free to like dispute it if you want. But I have found that if I'm working in like large, complicated projects, like large monoliths, that I really struggle to use anything outside of a strongly typed language like C# or Java. And I mean that's kind of just me and in my thing. But yeah, I get worried if we start passing like data between different endpoints in our application. If like maybe one client of this has interpreted this data structure this one way and one hasn't interpreted the other, and like getting their contracts to sort of match up with each other is kind of difficult if you don't have a strongly typed language that you're basing it off of. Now, there's obviously like different schemas that you can build and stuff around it to ensure all this validation, but then you're basically just making a strongly typed language from a loosely typed language. C# is my favorite language too, but I've started appreciating Python more lately. Yeah, no, I mean, like I like Python to do for me. For me, it's like to do smaller things that are like really good. If you really want a great scripting language, Python is my favorite scripting language. But that's just me. We have Python people here. We have Java people here at Redis, but I'm the only .NET person. So I mean, maybe that tells you one thing. Maybe it's like it takes a special type to like it. All right. Anyway, so back to this. So what I really want here is I want to expose this method, this thing where we're executing things in a transaction, and I wanted to expose it inside the iRedis connection. So we will say, I think the right way to do something like this is to have a Redis reply execute transaction, and have this be an enumerable of tuple string and then an array of strings. Command args tuples. I guess I can change this to an enumerable. It doesn't actually need to be an array. Accomplishes the same thing. I need a third bracket at the end of that. Sure. Yeah, execute. Good call. It's a good thing we have like a live code review here. That's actually very useful for me. There we go. So executes the transaction, executes the contained commands within the context of a transaction. Each tuple represents command and its arguments execute inside a transaction. Redis reply. I'm trying to use the Windows S button to save things. So that's just telling you how off I am of the last couple weeks. All right. Now, we need to implement this. All right, so I don't want this to be internal. If you want, I want this to be a public. May you ask where I'm from? I am from Central Florida. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I live in Central Florida now. I live about 30 minutes from Kennedy Space Center, which is where SpaceX launches launches most of the rockets. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the darn POC, which I really could care less about. But I guess I could write it in here too. So var transaction equals db.transaction pre-transaction. What was he doing before? Something is wrong with this. Oh, he's using execute async. Uh-huh. Okay, hold on. What the heck? Covariant conversion from string array to object array can cause exception in write operation. It's a new one. I've seen that before. So like a boxing thing? But the method tries to modify elements of the array, you will get runtime errors. In this case, it doesn't, so you can ignore the warning. Okay, well, let me just do this. R equals list tuple dot item 2 dot to array. So transaction dot execute async. And then pass in tuple dot item 1, which is the command name, and tuple dot item 2. Then I just do a transaction dot execute. Dot result. Wait, so this is going to return a bunch of tasks, right? Maybe my best bet is to have this return an array. Is there actually like transaction and execute? Yeah, let me check my screen. Let's see. Oh, nice. Never been there before. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice here. It's pretty in the, 4 minutes on the beach, 30 minutes from the Space Center, and right by Disney, like an hour and a half from Disney. Also space. Yep, we got space here. We have loads of space. So transaction.execute. I probably need to get the tasks too. Add. Okay. And then just gonna await all those tasks. I mean, there's just block there and wait. Realistically, though, like this execute actually executes everything, so I don't have to worry about it after that. This isn't great, but this is a sync method. The async method will be cleaner. So then I can just pull all the results out of here, and I think I'm just gonna make this an array of results. So this connection, let's make this an array. Oh yeah, this is going to be an array of Redis result. Result to array. you fancy. All right, cool. So that does it. And so now this is going to just execute all these command tuples that you pass in. And then for, we want to also do this asynchronously too. So actually, I think the async one is probably more important. So task. Let's actually call this execute in transaction. What's the unused R for? This one? Nothing. We should delete that. It is dead code. Yeah. There's no point. There is no point in that. That was just me hacking, and now it's done. But anyway, so the next thing we need to do is really this. Make the async version of this, which is just an async task of Redis reply arrays. And the big difference here is we're just going to await this task at the end. That's a big difference. So now these two methods are ready, and they do basically the same thing. And I want to actually move that. Inherit. What is it? Inherit. I need this. Upload some documentation from it's like I said, there's a lot of value in having a live code review. It's helpful, right? So that's that one, and then there is another one in the proper Redis OM. We're going to drop here, and of course we don't have link or anything installed, so that's good. Yep, don't care. Still needed to execute asynchronously. I mean, unless I can do an execute async and then just await that. All right, cool. So I can do that. Let me go back to the other one then. I really don't care that much about the POC stuff, because that was an older project that it was really like where Redis OM kind of lifted out of. I wrote this whole thing in a proof of concept project, and like there's some other stuff in there that hasn't been added to Redis OM yet. Like, for example, there is a cool serializer that will just generate code for you to serialize things in the hashes that you want. I just never got around to really maturing that and putting into the main line of Redis OM. And I figured it's like, oh, well, if anyone ever runs into any bottleneck serializing stuff, I have that available for people. And realistically, I think the increase in speed from using Redis OM over like a SQL database is so significant that no one's even noticed that there's a bottleneck in serializing JSON data and hash data coming out of Redis. So, I mean, right now everything is just like doing great. So anyway, yeah. So we're not doing that. We're not doing this anymore. So, Yeah, no. So what we need to do is we need to develop these tuples that we're going to pass into our commands now. So let's see what we have here. I am getting a time there. Are these all times? I think they might just all be expire times. So we're just getting expire times. The times at which these things are going to expire. And I guess we're passing in we're doing an expire at. And I really think time to live. So time to live is historically like the amount of time from when you issue the command that it has to live. So I don't know that I agree that the default being a time of expiration makes sense, especially since like it's a little convoluted. So let's go ahead and change those all to time spans. Software engineer at Redis, by the way, never got to see the .NET Redis OM though. Oh, welcome. Well, welcome. Then I didn't realize that we had other fellow Redisons in the chat. Yeah, just ping me on Slack, and I'll show off some more of the source code to you. It's all on GitHub though, so you can look at it. So I think the appropriate thing to do here is to actually follow what Stack Exchange uses as their load star for these. Like you can pass in a date time which you want to expire, but I think a time span makes a little bit more sense. So let's go ahead and change that. Yeah, we can add an extra overload, but I want the canonical one to be the time span. And so I'm just yeah, you can always overload both. We can, but I'm just going to use time span for now. And then when we're through that, maybe I'll go back in and add an expire at. Yeah, so that's going to be time span. Well, the good news is I'm breaking all this stuff. So I guess the next thing, so it should be relatively easy to find where I need to make changes. All right, so let's go in and add on private long time span I'm just gonna pass in a p expire for all of these. I don't see any reason to muck around with guessing if it's if it's seconds or milliseconds. So um, well, there's no reason to do this. They have this total milliseconds thing ready and able to go. Yeah, you know what I am going to do though? Yep. Static send command with binary. This command string args time span ts. No problem. See you later. Okay. So let's extract. So let's see. Our command tuple equals new tuple dot create and args for tuple dot create expire and then ts dot total milliseconds to string. Oh, man, it's just gonna cause weird stuff though. That's a double and not a Okay, well, let's try that. So we have a bunch of milliseconds that we're passing into this pexpire command, and go. And then just return function.execute. And tuple, expire tuple. Oh, yeah, new string array with this. Okay. So private static task, same thing. Call this the same thing, but async. And we'll call the async version of this. It's a valid command name, so we're going to just save that to the dictionary. All right. Go up. Okay. Uh, oh, yeah. Why is this returning a Boolean? What is the JSON set commands return? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. The first Okay, so that's the first one. Okay. Um, all right, let's see. This is hash set. Yeah. So for this one, we need to args.add evp.key evp args.add evp.value args.add key, and then we need to return connection.execute transaction. Oh no, wait. What am I doing? What did I do with that other one? I'm using that one, right? Oh, okay, good. So dot expire, send command with expire. And this is an H set with these args, dot to array, and then I'm going to pass in my time span, and I want to return the first result of this, which should be the result of the hash set. Set again. So this should now be our args equals new. Then return connection dot expire async. JSON.set args and timespan. First, wait. So to wait that, first equals okay. Getting there. Page set. Async. So wait this whole thing. First bit of it. All right. And then in here, I just pass in, well, this expiry needs to become time span. And we're going to change this time span. String object. Ah. Insert async. Okay, so this is probably defined. And this will be time span. I bet you that. Let's find it here. Insert async. Has 8 times speed time span. Of course, right up here we have, this has to be a time span. All right, so I mean, that looks like it's done all the things now. And now this is all broken, which is fine. And millisecond, second 1. Done. From seconds 1, then that should work. But why wasn't the test run? Oh, duh. Oh my goodness. Because I don't have .NET 5 installed. All right, well. This is not going to be an issue for much longer because some generous soul within the Redis community, in the Redis OM community, installed or added a PR so we would move over to .NET 6 for our testing suite. But I don't feel like interfering with that right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and install the thing. All right, so let's open up this SDK. Let's install it. That's just really funny. All right, close. Now let's try that again. Excellent. So I probably screwed something up. The transaction was discarded because of previous errors. Like what? Let's look and see what gets run against this thing. Well, that's not much, admittedly. Interesting. Hold on. The heck? Wait, did these tests pass? Wait, this in here? Am I just building everything here off of shifting sands? All right, what's going on here? Marcus resolved. Commit merge. All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm just curious if this test ever passed. I might have to get super creative with this if it doesn't. All right. Come on. People have been watching you go for a minute and 45 seconds. Because, I mean, just so everyone understands what's going on here, like this multi and exec right here are just like going one after the other. You would expect other commands to get queued up along with this. So I'm not sure if the I transaction works the way I think it does, or the way that we thought it did. It might not work. It just might not work that way. Still waiting, cogitating, contemplating. All right. Let's think about this now. What is execute in the context of this actually mean? So if I go to github.com, so stack exchange, Redis. We go to source, database async. I think it's just and then what does execute do? There is no execute. No execute here. So, I'm not really sure that this is supposed to work like this. This thing is still going, still chomping on it. I don't know what is going on. I think it just might not work. I suspect it doesn't work. All right, let's think about this now. Let's test transactions. We'll do .NET add package stack. So I'll open this up now. Writer again, trust and open in a new window. And let's try this out as soon as this loads. So program.cs var muxer equals connection multiplexer.connect localhost var db equals muxer.get database, and then var transaction equals db.create transaction. Transaction.execute async. Yeah, what we're trying to use is so set foo var. Let's try that. What happens? And there's two things. So multi, set foobar, select yes. Okay, so that is exactly what I expected to happen. So that's a good sign. Does that always work like that though? What am I doing in here? Let's queue two things. Transaction dot execute async expire foo 50. So that's working exactly like I would think it would. When we run this, I mean, I could just be a moron. That's very possible. So it's just not working. It might just not do anything correctly. Let's stop here. What? So transaction dot create. So transaction dot execute async. Now what's going on here? What happens when I do the same thing? It's supposed to hold all these back until I call this execute. Yeah, and it's doing exactly what that's supposed to do. So why is it? So this is really weird. Oh, no. It's already set it at this point. Why is it already set it there? Where is it coming up with this clever idea to set it? So it already set it here? Oh, okay. Let's just start over. Okay, so it hasn't even, so it's not even occurring in there. That's probably part of like the setup. It's happening right here. Okay. Well, let me just comment that out because it doesn't do anything for me. So command argument tuples, JSON.set, p expire. Am I not setting p expire correctly? I am not. Ah, well, there you go. That is why. That's amazing. All right. So p expire. So it actually needs two things. It needs a key too. That's what I'm missing. Excellent. String key to expire. That is just comical. That's classic you, Steve. Good job. So key to expire, 1 millisecond, because it's actually rejecting the transaction out of hand because there's a syntactical error in it. For those of you who don't know about transactions, syntactical errors will not run. I was surprised I wasn't seeing any of the commands come across at all. All right, so that's going to break this in a very good way. So key time chain. Key again. Try this one more time. Aha. Yep, there it is. So that's happening. Excellent sign. Not as great sign that this is failing. Whatever happened to our forever running unit test? It's still running. Wow. What is going on with this thing? It's going to use up all my minutes. What the heck happened here? I think that's the test might have been erroneous. I think that's probably what it's causing it. Well, I mean, that might just not be enough time for everything to happen. So let's give it 5 seconds. Again. Nope. Huh. Oh. Oh yeah, that's my bad because I deleted that thing from before. Okay. Yay. So I think I could drop this back to 1200 milliseconds or something. All right, cool. So that works. Excellent. Yeah, let's just make sure that we are, in fact, executing the commands. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm good. I think this works. So let's look and see what all has happened in here since we started our journey. Projects. I think actually actually one thing I'm going to do is just clean up all these warnings in here. Any of these allocations, which this is about. Fired. And then, yeah, you're supposed to put your expected ahead of your actual in here. Cool. Yeah, well, still complaining about these names. And it's gonna be the same, all the same stuff down here too. Jason. Dash. It's a bar. We don't need any of these. Okay. Oh yeah, this needs to be. This should be async too. And can we just use person here, please? To remove that isn't person. Remove this. Yeah, we don't need those. That actually matters. Try these tests again to make sure I didn't break them. I don't think I should have because everything I did was just I didn't fix it on the async one or the synchronous one. Excellent. So Redis connection. Now it's in Redis command. And for the sync one down here, this also needs a key to expire. I was going to say, I only broke 2 things, and that was kind of a little low for what I was expecting. So key. And what are these warnings down here? Saying I don't need this. Oh, and I don't. Of course. Expire. This is why we test everything before we ship it. With a thoroughness of 1,000 suns. All right, so 1,200 seconds. I'll just call it the 1,500 stand. Run. Always use Git Add P. Yeah, that looks good. Looks good. All right. Get config global user.email. Actually, going to do this off to the side here, even though I've already dumped my email out here. Hello there. Welcome to the stream. Today I am working on an issue in Redis OM NET that has been open to allow timed libs to be added at insertion when you're creating your objects and documents in Redis OM. And I've kind of gotten it done, I think. So I'm just trying to push it up. So git config user.name. Oh. All right. Updating transaction logic to remove dependency on Redis collection. I actually need to go into here and make sure that this has been removed. Yep. No, Redis connection. Make sure that this is not in here. Yeah. Let's go through. Go ahead and move and sort these usings. All right, so let's run this. Let's make sure that this actually runs, and we'll be good to go. And in the interim, Phil has a question. So I'm working on a project where I need to make notifications push to users in an Angular app. I was hoping you would recommend Redis as something I'd need. I'm pretty lost. Okay, so this is actually kind of a common use case for Redis. So first and foremost, what platform is your application written in? I mean, I know you were saying that the front end is Angular, but what are you using for your back end? .NET, Java, Python. What are you using for your back end for your server side? Give them a couple minutes to answer. Let's see if this is progressing. I think it's probably waiting and stuff. I guess I'll leave this question up here from YouTube. Because I mean, this is a popular question, and it's something that Redis can help you out kind of a lot with. So I was curious first, like what are you using? Time between your stream and message showing up is very slow. Yeah, sorry, I think I might have missed it for a couple minutes. I just was doing something else. Well, I have to actually actively click these to bring them up because we don't actually want to display things that are like inappropriate that have come into a channel. So I actually have to actively click them, and if I'm looking at something else, I just miss it. So what are you using? What backend are you using? Oh, so that makes it pretty easy. So you're using a .NET Core app. So what you would want to do for in this case, there's two things that you can use to essentially push notifications to your front end. Well, there's exactly one thing that you would actually use to perform the pushing. You would use SignalR, which is basically an integration between WebSockets, server-side events, and long polling, which let you basically route stuff that comes into your .NET Core app to your front end. I've done a lot of content in the past about ASP.NET Core and SignalR. So that's what you would want to use. Now, what your backplane would be is actually where Redis kind of comes in handy. There's actually a friend of mine, his name is Kevin Griffin, who does a lot of SignalR content, and he uses Redis as a backplane for his applications kind of a lot. And you can do one of two things. There's two different paradigms that you can use. Oh, well, this has actually failed, so I'll just look at this later. So if I failed, I'll take a look at that later. I think probably something got messed up. Oh, something probably got messed up because of that because those aren't being cleaned up. All right. So there's, so use SignalR is basically the thing that pushes your data to your front end. But like, where do you get that data from is like the question that Redis can answer for you. And there's two things you can do. So let's go to redis.io real quick. And the two big things that you would use, there's two data structures that you can use. Well, one data structure and one paradigm. So if we go to data types, take a look at streams. So a Redis stream is basically like this logging structure. So you send messages through it. So like you see xadd, temperatures, US New York, zip code 1007. You give it an ID, which is going to become this right here. So this star, Redis takes the Unix millisecond timestamp and appends like an incrementer onto the end of it, and that's its ID. And then you just pass it a bunch of field value pairs, so like temp F 87.2, pressure 29.69, humidity 46, and you basically feed these messages into the stream. And then you can do things like run an X-range on them, and you can basically find all the messages that came in between two times. So like this timestamp and maybe the end of time, or between two timestamps, or before a timestamp if you replace this with a minus and move that timestamp over there. So you can get those different messages based off of their point in time. And if your app is if you just have one consumer doing this, your app can just keep track of these timestamps. But what's even more powerful about this is if you have other workers that are like dequeuing things, that you want to dequeue things and process them and maybe send them out over your SignalR hubs, you can then actually use consumer groups. So if we take a look at X-ray grouping here, a consumer group lets you basically create a bunch of workers that go out and pull things off in order, in context of that group, and do whatever processing you need on them. And it actually tracks all of the IDs for you to see what's been pulled off, what's been processed, etc. So that's one way. So streams are actually really useful for that. And the other way is you can actually use PubSub. So PubSub has its own page in Redis. So I'll just drop these two things in the comments here. So here's the PubSub one, and data types, streams. Here's the other one. And there's a tutorial for streams in here too. And so what PubSub does is actually a little bit more immediate than a stream. So you're saying, I need notifications for whenever I make an HTTP request to my backend for some stored procedure calls. So your user makes an HTTP request to your backend. But whenever I make an HTTP request, so when that request comes through, you want to basically send out a SignalR notification to all of your users, everyone using it. Is that what you're saying? Yes. And another user will get a notification. Okay, so first off, you probably don't need. I mean, I'm in the business of telling people to use all the Redis they can handle, but you probably don't need Redis unless like you have a notification that is getting broadcast from a different data source, or like some telemetry you're collecting, or some PubSub. So you can do PubSub, or you can do streams, but you can really just integrate a SignalR hub and just send it out through that SignalR hub. And there's ways to scale that up. Hold on. Let's see. I don't really want to plug my own stuff here, but This is my website, which I haven't updated in literally years. Take a look at. So take a look at this. This is like an old tutorial I wrote about using SignalR and Blazor together. And like literally, you could just stand up a hub in your app, and you can basically push the things through that hub and have your clients connecting to that hub. Where Redis really comes in handy is if you have a ton of stuff that you're aggregating, you want to aggregate through Redis, and you want to like distribute the load of that across different workers. And you don't necessarily want to flood everything through your ASP.NET Core application at the same time. Like that's where Redis really becomes useful. Like if you're up at that super high scale and you want to, aggregate things, you don't want everything to flow in continuously, and because SignalR is expensive when it comes to like handling all the sockets that it uses and managing all those connections. It basically has a big fan out problem. So you want to use like a backplane like Redis when you have other data sources, when you're at a huge scale and you want to scale out a lot with this. But for something as simple as like, oh, every once in a while someone's performing a stored procedure call, let me use SignalR. You would just push. You would get that HTTP request, and when that happens, you would execute something in your hub, which would push out to all of the users of that all the trying to think what they're called. I think they're just called clients, all the clients of the hub. And you can specify which clients you're pointing at. Like you can give them names and stuff. You can give them categories and just push out to all those that meet a particular category. But yeah, there's a lot of really useful content out there for SignalR. And I would advise using that. And you can use Redis as a backplane for that too. Hopefully that answered your question. So just some general programming questions we get asked to, and I think that's actually kind of helpful. Okay, so where am I? Oh, so with this, to finish this off, so what happened was these keys were not being deleted. So, okay, well, I'm glad that this did help you. But yeah, you can use Redis as a backplane for your SignalR. But if it's something low throughput and not distributed, you probably are okay just using a straight out SignalR hub and not worrying about it. And it's going to depend a lot on your application. But yeah, there's content out there for using SignalR and Redis together with each other. There's actually an extension library of Redis that uses SignalR. But SignalR is a technology that you want to use to push the notifications to your front end. And Redis is an option as a backplane for all that. And the two things that you would use in Redis are either streams or PubSub. Okay. So fundamentally, we need to delete these at the end here. So connection, delete. JSON. This is a great question. So what are some use cases where Redis streams might provide some benefit over Redis PubSub? So the core issue with PubSub is that you only have a single attempted delivery of the message. So it is real time. So like when a publisher pushes out a message, anybody subscribed to that channel will receive the message. However, if your connection drops for some reason, if a consumer hasn't connected yet, they're not going to receive the message. And that message will just be forever lost. What's nice about streams is it actually persists those messages inside of streams. The disadvantage is that you actually have to come in and consume them rather than having them actively pushed out to your instance. And you can consume them in a blocking way, so it kind of feels like you're using PubSub, in that you can block on a particular consuming call of a stream, but like it's not like necessarily, oh, you get it and it pushes out and that channel stays open for more messages to come in. No, streams, you go in and you consume the messages that are in the stream. And then PubSub, the big disadvantage is that, like, oh, if this client who's it's really important to hear these messages dies or gets disconnected and comes back up, all the messages that went in while that connection was faulted are now lost. Like that's the big difference between the two. And streams stay in memory as long as you don't trim them or delete them. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. All right, so I need to delete these two. These two. Okay. And I think I should probably I do docker run -d-p 6379 :6379 Redis Labs. I think is what do we use in of course, I'm looking over here and no one's seeing what I'm doing. So I think I use Redis Labs. That's Redis. Yeah, I use this one. I use this. And of course, all of my Docker images are gone, so I have to pull it again. Love it. All right, so that's running now. So let me try running all of my tests. Unit test. Let's run them all. What the heck? Run unit tests. All right, there we go. Oh, I think I know what happened. Yeah. So that is not supposed to. Yeah, they're just not playing nicely together. I'm gonna have to figure this out offline, but we're almost there. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna go here. If you're interested in more Redis streaming content, if you go to developer.redis.com, you go to get involved, Redis Live, you'll see the upcoming schedule for Redis streaming episodes like this. I really appreciate everyone showing up today and the great conversations we've had. All right. Have a good one. Bye.